won't be voting for this motion this evening, Madam Deputy Speaker, not because I don't believe that the British electorate are entitled to a referendum on European membership, because I do. I won't be voting for this motion this evening because the third option makes a complete nonsense of the proposal. It establishes the motion as belonging to the far right of the Conservative Party, wanting to nostalgically return to the 1970s when the common market was a big businessman's club with no workers' rights and containing only 9 member states. If that was not the case, then the motion would include further left-wing options that would improve workers' rights, for example. But then, of course, it would start to look like an even more ridiculous referendum. The matter should be clear. The question should be either in or out of Europe. The present three-way proposal will result in a complete dog's breakfast, leaving the British people as frustrated as ever. What is clear to me, however, Madam Deputy Speaker, is that public dissatisfaction with our Euro relationship will not go away. And that lies in the fact that Britain has never really had a fair and democratic say. You may remember that we were taken into the common market in the first place by a Conservative government without a referendum, because Ted Heath knew full well that the public would not have voted for entry. He was well rewarded by defeat at the next election. And when Harold Wilson delivered his promised referendum on the so-called negotiated terms, it was a complete farce. And to be fair, his government was rewarded by defeat at the next election. Of course I'll give way.
I'll never forgive me way. I think I was actually active in the Labour Party at that time. I voted no, but he may remember that the great majority of Labour MPs at that time voted no in the referendum, and the Labour Party, a special Labour Party conference, had a big no vote on that referendum as well. It was the leadership actually who supported continued membership.
Things have certainly changed. The 1975 referendum Yes campaign was all about us leaving Europe and going into isolation. There were even claims at that time from the Yes campaign that if we left we would be starved of food. My own employer at the time, in a moment, wrote to every employee urging them to vote yes, claiming that to leave the common market would cost jobs. They employed over 3,000 people at that time. Now they employ just 100. So I suppose matters could have been worse.
Will my honourable friend give way?
Of course I'll give way. I'm
very grateful to my honourable friend. I was on the same side as he was in 1975 and voted to come out of the EEC as it then was. But would he agree with me that the biggest lie told, both in entry to the EEC and in that referendum, was by Ted Heath when he said that there would be no loss of sovereignty?
Well, I'll get to that, Madam Deputy Speaker, because voters were deceived by promises of huge increases in national prosperity and soothed by the leadership of the three political parties into voting yes. On one side of the argument sat the three-party leaders, Harold Wilson, Ted Heath and Jeremy Thorpe, and on the other, Enoch Powell and Tony Benn. The British media almost universally portrayed it as established common sense against the extreme fringes. The government have produced a document entitled Britain's New Deal in Europe. I've kept it because I knew I'd hold it against them one day, in red, white and blue. It recommended a yes vote. It was delivered by the post office to every home and it made clear promises. The most important promise was that Britain had a veto on all important new policies and development. It said no important new policy can be decided in Brussels or anywhere else without the consent of a British minister, answerable to a British government and British Parliament. Just 10 years later, another Conservative government completely reneged on that vitally important promise without a referendum. This time, it was Margaret Thatcher who gave up Britain's veto when she signed the Single European Act, which actually makes Maastricht and Lisbon look like a sideshow. So to talk now about no new powers to Europe is, quite frankly, shutting the stable door once the horse has bolted. Now, it may well be that this is not the time to resolve the British people's dissatisfaction with our membership of the European Union, but the time must come, and the leadership of our major political parties should face the facts that if they wish to constructively maintain our relationship.
I'm very grateful. I often find, Madam Deputy Speaker, that people list all the things that they're against when they make an argument, but surely, particularly from his background in the trade union movement, he must welcome the fact that the social chapter and the social Europe has been massively important for the improvement of the people of this country.
I do, Madam Deputy Speaker, but the point I make today is that we will not resolve this issue until we have sought the consent of the British people, and we never have. And as I said, the leadership of our major political parties must face the facts that if they wish to constructively maintain our relationship with Europe with public support, then they should have the collective courage to take the argument to our people instead of huddling together against a referendum every time it arises.